My name is Staff Sergeant Mark Everett Lancheter.
Alright, why did you join the service and how old were you?
I joined when I was 18, and I joined because my family has a long history of service to country. My dad was Air Force, my grandfather was Army. I got all kinds of uncles and stuff that are in other branches.
Yeah, what branch of the service are you in? Were you in?
I'm in the Marine Corps.
How did your parents feel about you joining the service?
My parents were supportive. Like I said, my dad was in the Air Force, so the only one question was why the Marine Corps, and my answer to him was, well, why did you join the Air Force when your dad was Army? So that kind of just dropped why I picked the Marine Corps altogether.
Where did you do your basic training, and do you have any interesting stories from down there?
I did my basic training in 1994 in San Diego, California. What happens is, if you're east of the Mississippi, you generally go to Parris Island. If you're west of the Mississippi, you're going to go to San Diego. There are a million interesting stories about boot camp because it's a change. You're going to go from being a civilian and doing what you want to being controlled and told everything from when to go to the bathroom or not. I remember my most interesting story probably is actually a little comical. I was on the quarterdeck, which is known as where you do your push-ups, for about 3 seconds, and everyone else tried to figure out how. But what I did was, there was a recruit there named Neil who couldn't do push-ups so well. So they would make him lay like Cleopatra. They would put his hands and lay down on the ground, while the rest of us had to do push-ups and watch him. So the drill instructor said, Neil, why did you join my beloved Corps? And I said, sir, this recruit knows. And he's like, shut up, Lancaster, I didn't ask you. But then I could see in the drill instructor's eye, he was curious what another recruit was going to say. So he's like, okay, Lancaster, why did he do that? And I said, well, sir, he walked into the Marine recruiting office thinking it was the Peace Corps, and the recruiter took advantage of him. So the drill instructor turned away, started laughing, I think. I'll never know, because he turned away from the window, and then he turned back around and he's like, get off the quarterdeck. So I actually jumped up, I said, by your leave, and I took back off. So.
Going down there, was there a culture shock, meeting people from all over the country, or?
Yes, because when I'm up from Maine, I come from a small place. There was only like one black family. There was no Latinos, so I didn't really grow up in that environment. And then when I went to southern San Diego, like there was all kinds of different people, and they make you like intermingle with them. You don't have a choice. You can't be segregated and say, hey, all the blacks in this one. So you end up talking with them. Some of my best friends became, they were black and they were Hispanic, and before that I would have never known. I didn't have anything in common with them.
What were the conditions like over where you were?
Where in
where
I was in OIF 1 and OIF 2. So I was in Iraq in 2004 and then again in 2005.
And how are conditions over there?
You might be surprised, honestly. It's pretty disappointing. Because I'm a generator mechanic, I'm in the rear.
Mm-hmm.
So I supply the power, so I live a pretty nice life over there. If anybody wants like air conditioning or something, pretty good chance that I'm going to get it too because I supply the power. So my conditions were, we were in an old, the first time we were in tents that were commandeered, or not commandeered, I guess is a bad word, that were like issued to us so that we could support the Kuwaiti people. They were actually owned by Kuwait, and we paid to rent them out. And then the second time we stayed in an Iraqi Air Force place, and so we actually lived where they used to live.
Were you ever involved in a firefight?
No, I was not involved in a firefight. What happened was I was third vehicle in a convoy of 53, and we drove through relatively pretty easy. The rear of the convoy actually came under fire and returned fire.
What kind of technology is being used over there? Can you elaborate on that, or?
Somebody is teaching them. I'm not going to say they're ignorant. There are some very smart people, but when the war started out, it was very primitive. They're explosive devices. Like, it would be so primitive that they would try to put like a bomb on top of a door, and if you try to kick in the door, it would fall and it really wouldn't detonate or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as well as I do, they can like call from cell phones and pagers and all kind of door device, or garage door devices to blow you up. So somebody's obviously teaching them.
Who was the most unforgettable character you met at the war?
It would be a young man. He was about 23 years old. It's hard to pronounce his name, just the dialect. But basically, I won't forget him because he was kind of forced into being in the Iraqi army when it started. And he was telling me he only got paid like 32 cents a month, and he was just explaining to me the differences. Like, I do this voluntarily, I get paid, halfway decent. He would have to save up for weeks at a time to buy cigarettes. He just had unique stories. So when we sat down and we talked, it was like, wow, man. I realized he's a lot like me in some ways, but at other times he kind of got the short end of the stick. So that's why I'll never forget him. You're fighting for your country for 32 cents a month, you're not going to be too happy about it.
Do you ever have a chance to meet civilians over there or people that live in the country? And do you have an opinion about them?
Well, what happens is they contract people to come in and work. A lot of those are Indonesians as far as Indians, and a lot of them are like Pakistani. So it's very rare to meet an actual Iraqi, although it's not impossible. You just have to figure out, like, because they look close a lot alike, so you have to figure out. Then once you talk to them, they tell you a lot of stuff, but at the same time you're thinking, can I really trust this guy? Yeah. Supposedly I met a former general of that Iraqi base, and I kept thinking, he was telling me there was planes buried somewhere on that base, and I kept thinking, like, why would they bury a plane? I mean, okay, I guess we did unearth a couple during that war, but I mean, it's a lot of effort to bury a plane on an Air Force base. So I was like, I didn't really believe him.
Mm-hmm. Well, what do you feel? Do you feel that Americans should serve at least 2 years?
I think all Americans should serve at the very least 2 years, and the reason for it is it's going to teach you, like I said, how, like from my upbringing, how to socialize with different people, and it's going to teach you respect, and it's going to teach you, what the generations before us fought for. So I think that every American should serve for at least 2 years. So
it's like a learning experience. You learn how to interact with other people and just.
Well, it's a lot more than that.
Well, yeah, but
for me, I think that if I would have stayed up in Maine where I was originally born, I would have never met or known half the people that I know. I mean, the person that works in the same office with me, he's Indian. So like he'll tell me a lot about his culture, but if I'd have stayed in Maine, I would have never met him. Things like that.
And how do you feel about women in the military?
I feel, as myself, Mark Lancheter, not the Marine Corps, let me state that, but as myself, I think that women shouldn't be in the military, especially in the Marines, because the Marines are very gung-ho, they're in the front lines. I do understand that, that sounds very sexist. I do know a lot of women though that did serve with me in the rear, and they did it as well, if not better job than the male counterparts. But when it comes to frontline combat, obviously America doesn't want to see young women blown apart on TV.
When you left the battlefield, or when you left over in Iraq, were you able to come back to civilian life easy, or was it a little different to get adjusted?
It's very different. It's not. It was very easy to come back, and here's why. I think Vietnam opened up a lot of eyes. This time, I had to go through I had to talk to 3 doctors. I had to fill out questionnaires on what I saw, what happened, all this, so that people could look at them. I did see death over there. I saw our American soldiers, sailors, and Marines, airmen too. They all got flown into where I was in Camp Takata. When that happened, you have to see a shrink and have to ask you, are you okay with it? Do you have any issues? They're going to ask you things of that nature.
Cool. Now, you said you came back, you've done 2 tours. Would you go back over again?
Oh, yes.
Serve again?
I've already sat my wife down about, because this tour is recruiting duty, is only about, it's about 3 years. So I've already sat her down about 6 months ago and explained to her that, honey, I'm going to go back. And the reason that I'm going to go back is this. The Marine Corps will send you back if you choose to go or choose not to go. So if they need a Marine Staff Sergeant General Mechanic over there and you don't want to go, you're going anyway. So I view it as this. I don't mind it. My family is a strong family. We can tolerate the deployment the 6 months to the year apart. So I know this. If I go back, I serve my country and I do it, then that's the one less Marine that they have to ask or make go over there. So I'll probably be over there honestly within about 2 years at the latest. I'm gonna request orders, or I'll see it come out on the web that they need a hot fill for my job, and I'll fill it, and the next thing I know, I'll be back over.
Now you probably go somewhere different. Do you go to the same general area as you've been? Or?
The first time I went right on the border of Kuwait, and I fixed gear coming back from the initial push. Remember when President Bush was on the aircraft carrier and declared major war was over? All that gear had to come back, so I was fixing that. On the second time, I was 7 miles from Fallujah, and I was supporting the 1st Air Cav with the Army, and I was supporting the 31st MEU with their aircraft. So I don't even know where I could end up the next time.
Do you think the military in 2006 is over-glamorized?
I think the military in 2006 is not over-glamorized, because once I ask a lot of vets, like if you talk to a Vietnam vet, they're known as like baby killers and stuff like that, because that's the perception. Mm-hmm. Then you talk to about a Korean vet, it's a forgotten war. World War II, greatest generation on earth. So I've talked to people much like yourselves, and I've talked to vets, and I said, what is my generation, what is my war on terror prescribed at? And what I've heard, which was kind of shocking, but then I thought about it, was that we have chip on our shoulder. So when you talk to a vet from this war that comes back from Iraq, a lot of times he's a little bit arrogant. He's like, I served my country, you didn't. So I see that aspect. So I think that it's not glamorized as much as it should be, because of the reports that are out there and the death toll. Those are pretty much all that's making the headlines.
Has your military experience changed your life? And if it has, how so?
Yes, it has. For me, when I went over there, you have to come to grips of what the military asks. Like myself, I don't mind if I die in war. I know that sounds kind of messed up, but I don't want my actions to kill somebody else. Mm-hmm. I don't want to shoot something or not shoot something that results in loss of more Marine life. So you have to come to the grips with that. I might have to do something I don't want to do, and I better do it quick so that I don't lose other Marines. Now when you come back from there, you realize life is short. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, people don't generally walk around thinking I could get hit by a car today. But when you come back, you're like, hey, there's a few things I want to do in the next couple months before I take off. So for me, I know I bought a Harley. I'm like, I came back, I'm like, I'm buying a Harley.
So you're living it up.
Yes.
Has your military experience enhanced your professional career, or has it hindered it?
Oh, it enhanced it. I mean, to know a little bit about me, I was like a CB student through high school. I really didn't like it. I knew I wasn't going to college because I didn't really want to learn. So I'm afraid I would have had like not to hurt anyone's feelings, but I would have had like a common job, you know, like nothing that's going to pay above minimum wage. But now that the Marine Corps taught me how to work on equipment, diesel engines, I know that I can get out and be a mechanic, and which is still kind of common, but you know, I'll be making up to $60 an hour. So.
Any medical effects from your time over there, or?
No. The only thing they gave me as far as medically wise was they gave me smallpox. I really wasn't too gung ho on that idea, because they'd start telling you it's a virus and stuff. But once you do the research, I became more accepted with it. So, but no medical effects.
All right, you mentioned you have a family. Would you want your son or daughter to join the military?
I would be honored. To be honest with you, I think my daughter will join before my son. She likes to go shooting weapons with me, and she likes to drive on the Harley. I think she's more of a Marine than my son. My son's kind of little mama's boy, so.
Any branch in particular, or would it?
Well, I hope she's a Marine, but if she tells me anything else, I'll accept it. You know, I'll ask her to sit down with the Marine recruiter, and hopefully she will. But if not, you know, you wish the best for your children.
Do you think any Army can stand up to the American Army today?
I don't think any Army in the world can stand up to the American Army today, and the reason for that is that we're technologically advanced. I did train with some British Marines that, you know, they could probably hold their own, but it would be the fact that we could outnumber them, and the fact that we have a bigger fleet, we have a bigger Army, we have a bigger Marine Corps. So that's why I don't think anybody could hold up as far as number-wise. Because when you start talking about China, you start realizing they have more people, but they're not technologically advanced. We would probably, you know, attack them for a while before we send in ground forces.
So do you think in the end technology will beat willpower?
Well, okay, this is a little tricky question, because against China I think it would, but against if you're fighting insurgents, then I think that their willpower, as long as it stays dwindled and kindled, I think it's going to be hard to snuff that out, because if you fight a mass amount of troops, then you stand a good chance of winning. But if you fight small guerrilla tactics, it's hard to combat against that. So it's kind of a hard question to answer. You know, if they identify themselves, yes, no doubt in my mind. If they're small guerrilla tactics, I don't think technology will beat that.
Think you get enough credit for the job that you've done so far?
Yes, Massachusetts and specifically has been very open arms. People will stop me in the gas station, they'll stop me washing the car, they'll say thank you. I think in Massachusetts they either love you or hate you, and I think the people that hate you, they generally don't tell you. So,
do you think, have you heard of reports like anywhere else how soldiers get treated when they come home? Is it the same as Massachusetts, or you're not sure?
Well, for the most part, I did come home to California, and there was a parade. You know, so it's very open arms. I think this war is getting a lot of support. Even if you're against this war, they still say support our troops and bring them back. So I think even if you're really against this war, you still are saying, hey, I support you, I agree with what you're doing, I honor that, but let's bring you back. So.
All right, and you said you had no medical effects, but like, do you wake up like dreaming about it or flashbacks?
No, because basically with me, like I said before, I was only over there for 10 months, and I was in the rear with the gear, as they say. So I didn't really see that much, and I don't have any nightmares or anything. That's probably why I'm so willing to go back over, because I don't feel that it traumatized me. I think it helped me become a better person. That's probably why I don't have a hard time going back.
If you were to go back and wanted to get more involved in the action, would you have to go through basic training again to train at more?
Nope.
Combat or?
Nope. Every Marine is a basic rifleman. So it depends on my unit. I was with a wing unit, and then I was with a maintenance unit. So if I got detached with a grunt unit, then I wouldn't per se be kicking in the doors because of my rank and how long I've been in. But I would be there probably doing what they're telling me to do. So I don't really know. With the grunt unit, they wouldn't want me so much. They'd want one or two lower ranks. Because I would actually probably get in the way, you know. So it is possible, though.
So would you rather stay more with the mechanics? Would you ever want to get more involved in the?
Well, I think
if you had the choice.
Oh, if I had the choice, I'd want to be way more involved, because I think that as a Marine, I trained to do that. I trained to lead Marines in combat. You know, not. So that's what's so hard about it, is not being able to do that.
All right. Thanks for the interview.
You're